What is up, Moose Knuckles? JJ back here from Run Pure Bets. Another live show talking a little MLB. That's M as in Mary, LB. It should be a fun little Sunday, right? Got a nice little baseball slate. Another fun game on Peacock starting or already started. I say that kind of sarcastically. I don't understand the whole Peacock thing. Maybe I'm not part of the generation enough to understand it. But it makes no sense to me why they keep doing these random games at 12 o'clock on Peacock. Kyle, I did you the Moose Knuckles favor. I don't usually start these live shows with Moose Knuckles, but, cheers. Chachu, it's happening. Yeah, so a little bit of a lonely Dunkel sighting. Joey Works obviously doing his high-stakes cards stuff in Atlantic City. And Holden, maybe he checked into witness protection. Who knows? But needless to say, we're here. Uncle T, we the people. How is everybody? By the way, Terry, the reason why I was a few minutes late for this, I actually just clipped the golf video of me hitting the button on our friends Mitch and our friends Mangone on the little matchup bet. So what's up, Johnny? So I'm excited to kind of post that, because as a host of the golf show, somebody that's definitely not a golf better by any means. It's nice to kind of, when people are jerking each other off on the show about the same guy, I jump in and hit the fade button. If I hear something I don't like, I'm hitting the button, and that's going to happen moving forward now. So Uncle Terry, it's going to be nice to get Mangone Bucks and Snyder Bucks from the same show, and maybe we'll just ride that into next week. So looking forward to that. Anyway, so baseball, obviously yesterday we split the games. Me and Ali Mac, 1-1 each, minus the bit of vig. I'll say this. I mean, man, unders. So obviously this year I've definitely bet a lot more. I've definitely bet a lot more overs than unders. But I will say that the recent unders, but recently over the last, I'll call it month or so. I mean, All-Star break's a free week, but over the last month or so, I've definitely bet more unders than overs. And man, home run variance hasn't been in my favor. I know that obviously you can talk on pitchers and ballparks, and obviously you can try to make home runs more predictable per se, but it's still the variance part of betting totals. As an example, you could have a team that goes, 1 for 12 runners in scoring position, and then another team that hits 3 solo home runs and you lose the bet, whatever it is, 3-2 or whatever, where I'd argue that, the runners in scoring position bet was probably the right side, if you will. I think that it's just, I think it's 8 of my last 9 unders. I've had 3 or more home runs in them. It's just been a shame, because some of them I've lost right at the number. The Royals game yesterday had 3 dingers and 3 errors, and the game just lost at the number, which is a shame, because that would have been a nice little 2-0 for me for the day, which would have been nice. But needless to say, it was nice to hit the Nationals over. After that game looked a little bleak, and it was nice to get some homers in that one as well. And I'll be honest, it's been nice. The tennis hard court swing. This has been a good week for me in tennis. So again, I'm just looking forward to it not being clay anymore. Credit to Brooksby. I know this is a baseball show, but Jensen Brooksby's looked incredible. I think he's got a tough matchup today, though, for sure. Not a spot on betting Brooksby specifically, but I think he's proven to be one of the better returners in all of tennis on hard court. But anyway, on the MLB side, obviously got a fun little slate today. I won't talk on Blue Jays Tigers since that game already started, and because it's just me, you're going to get less bullshit, or maybe you'll get more bullshit. Who knows? Also sporting the old Rolling Rock shirt. I don't even like beer, but here we are. You got to have some bro in you, I know some folks obviously like to always look like they're the alpha, talk all tough and have big dogs and drive big pickup trucks. And no, that ain't me. I think you could put those folks in their own category, to be honest. Anyway, not to go off on a tangent. CJ2K. Yeah, I hope it's a sweep. I bet 3 bets today. I made 3 bets today. So hopefully we're on the right side of winners, if you will, or wrong side of losers. If that makes any sense. Needless to say, Braves, D-backs, Max Fried, Merrill Kelly. Fried had an interesting start his last time out, right? Did he get rocked? Or he got rocked to start before that, I think. Right? Now I'm just confirming, because now I'm not 100% sure. I guess, rocked is a bit egregious because he did have a quality start his last time out. But that, it just goes to show you how good of a year Max Fried's having, right? When the guy gives up back-to-back 3 earned starts or 3 earned in back-to-back starts, you start thinking like, oh man, this dude got rocked. But he's having an incredible season. I think the big thing with him has been the increased strikeouts. I think last year he really struggled in that category. I say struggled, but it was probably the blemish for him, not able to get himself out of jams when he got them in it with the K. But he's been having a tremendous season. And now draws Morel. Now, here's the thing. Kelly's having a great year, too. I'm surprised he wasn't moved, or maybe he will be moved. I don't hear him in any conversations. He's having a great season. Needless to say, I think it's a tough spot for him. And it's like I often say with this Braves lineup, like, even when they sit guys, it's like it doesn't even look like they do sit guys. This lineup is just so good day in and day out, and very few free outs. And Michael Harris, who bats ninth for this team, he's a pretty touted prospect. So it's like this lineup is just great day in and day out, no matter who they sit. Like I think today it looks like Austin Riley's sitting. You can barely even notice it with the way this lineup looks. Oh no, Austin Riley is in. See, well, that would make sense why you barely even notice it. LOL. But seriously, this Braves lineup, top to bottom, is obviously one of the best in baseball. And the Diamondbacks, this is probably as good of a lineup as they can put out on a day-to-day basis. Early game for them though. As far as their time zone goes. But look, Max Fried, the question mark with him now is, does he find his stuff again, or is this going to be something where he struggles a bit for the next few starts? For me, overall, I don't like anything in this game. I think that, look, warm weather game like this, I would, of course, lean the over at 8. But these pitchers have been very good, which makes it tough. But, again, in a park like this total, I can never play this under. It would only be an overplay for me. And I do have respect for both these arms, so it becomes a stay away. Yanks Royals, obviously I mentioned yesterday how the over lost with I think 3 errors from the Royals, which ended up being 3 runs. And of course that would be the difference. But needless to say, and even one of them was like a routine, like after an error that got somebody on base, there was another error that backed it up on a routine double play ball. Guy threw the ball into the outfield. LOL. And some people will say, oh, well, that's what happens when you bet, an under with a team that's 39-60 or 39-61 at the time. But no, like that type of stuff, any Major League Baseball team should not have back-to-back errors that result in two earned runs. But needless to say, Jordan Montgomery is a guy that I just haven't gotten right this season. Now, granted, I know that we faded him in the Taiwan Walker start on Tuesday. Here's my thing with Montgomery. Like, I don't like playing Montgomery against teams that have a lot of lethal righties. Now, sure, the Royals have some righty names in their bat. I mean, obviously a guy like Hunter Dozier and Merrifield and Salvi. And I guess even like Bobby Witt's been having a great year too, right? But like, besides that, like there's just, not much else. And it looks like for whatever reason, they decided to plate 3 lefties today. I get it. You don't want to sit some of your better bats, but Montgomery's brutal versus lefties. It's really the righties that he struggles with. Yankees have a decent lineup out today as well. Makes the game tough to. And here's the thing: like Greinke, look, credit to him. I don't know how he's getting any outs. I don't know how he's getting any outs this year. The guy throws like 85 miles an hour and has like nothing that can strike anybody out. But credit to him. He's finding ways to maneuver through innings and make himself still somewhat serviceable in this league. Look, I can't lay 285 with Montgomery in any start. I don't care who he's facing. The Royals have been competent to some extent recently, but no, I don't love anything about this game. I couldn't go right back to the under, even though I wanted to with how that game played out yesterday, just because I don't like Montgomery. And in this spot, you really have 2 non-strikeout pitchers, so guys that aren't really going to get themselves out of jams. Meanwhile, yesterday, at least I felt good with Cortez with the Ks, and Heasley can be a K upside guy. So, that's why I liked it there. But no, I don't like it as much here. I'd argue collectively you have 2 worse pitchers going today, and the total's even less. But it just becomes a stay away spot for me. So Red Sox Brewers. Now, yesterday, I believe I said that Eric Lauer as a pick'em made a lot of sense in this spot, but I don't bet Red Sox games. As for this spot here, Ashby, a lot of people like him. And I know my guy Johnny likes him a lot. Did they just sign him? I think they just signed him, right? Or extended him more money, I believe. Now Ashby hasn't, I think I'm thinking of the right guy. Maybe Johnny, if you're in the chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He hasn't looked good though, at least recently. Well, I say recently, the full spectrum, his sample size is still relatively growing and growing and growing. But if anything, he's actually looked good recently, right? I think he's had 3 or 4 decent starts in a row, but overall the biggest problem with him is the whip, right? He just gives up a ton of foot traffic. And I think he's finding issues wiggling himself out of consistent jams. Not a super high K guy, but definitely can wiggle himself out of certain jams. Now here, drawing a still somewhat degraded Red Sox lineup. They do get JD Martinez back, but this lineup is still not what it looks like, or not what it has looked like at times this year. This team has very quietly, again, crept under 500. This game to me, it would be a Brewers or pass. Look, Winkowski is a tough pitcher to watch as well. Like, I would argue both these pitchers give up a ton of foot traffic. But, to Ashby's credit, he's been getting himself out of these jams. Winkowski's not as much the same. You look at these lineups today, they're not terrible by any means. I mean, the Brewers have a pretty good lineup going today. The Red Sox, they're still missing Devers. But, other than that, I mean, and Story. So, but other than that, this lineup is probably as good as it can get right now. Jalen Davis leading off is kind of blah. But, so that would mean they're also sitting, what's his name? The other right-handed outfielder, Kike. So, yeah, you got a few bets for Boston out, which probably makes a difference. And the Brewers have won it seems like a bunch in a row, or I think they've lost like one of their last 10, something like that. So yeah, it's a stay away spot for me. But overall, I would lean the Brewers in this spot. Maybe want to lay the first 5 half run, but again, certainly nothing at all I love in this spot. So let's see. All right. Next game up, Pirates, Phillies, JT Brubaker, and Aaron Nola. So I did bet this game here. I bet the Phillies minus a half run, minus 130. Now, I'll be honest. I think out of all the types of bets I could make in a regular season, so if you just compare, right, first 5 run lines, overs, unders, first 5 overs, first 5 unders, I guess full game run lines. Probably the one of the bets I've made the least of has been first 5 run lines, lane and a half run. I think you can, of course, do it and have success with it. Me personally, I prefer the other way. I prefer grabbing half run when I can, first 5. But this spot is like just super juicy. So I've been touting Nola all season long, and I know that it's not like a crazy thing, but like he gets like absolutely no love. Like I know Wheeler, when I say no love, like no like Cy Young love. Like Wheeler obviously has been arguably the better arm on this team, so he gets a little more accolades. And of course, Sandy's been just incredible for the Marlins. But like Aaron Nola just continues to just grind out good starts. Now I know he comes off his worst start of the season, right? Last time out, 5 earned would be, yes, his worst start of the season. The dude still goes 6 innings though, still gets 7 strikeouts, and it was against the Braves. Maybe we can give him a break there. This guy's Ks have been great. He's 7th in the league, 7th or 8th in the league. His whip has been under 1 like all season. His advanced stuff backs him up. Here he's going to draw a Pirates lineup, which like, look at this lineup today. I mean, look, I get it. It's the Pirates, but like, man, this lineup's pretty woof levels. Even Kevin Newman leading off, who doesn't hit righties at all. And what lefties really scare you in this lineup? Like, to me, this is a good spot for Aaron Nola. Now, the problem is with this game in this series has been Philly has not exactly been hitting. And you look at their lineup today, and it's not exactly all that great either. Now, the fact that Didi Gregorius is hitting 7th makes you feel a little decent, at least, because obviously it's a decent big bat at the bottom. And then Herrera just seems to always sneak out a hit here and there, a crucial hit here and there, let me add. For me, I just think it's a great price. I know that Philly hasn't exactly looked fantastic. And granted, they've won. They're going for the full sweep for this series, but they haven't looked excellent by any means. Now, the reason why, that I prefer first 5 is this Phillies pen scares me a bit, and they've won 3 savable games in this series. So their good bullpen arms have been seeing a lot of action in this series. And first of all, Nola first 5 to me is such a good spot. And JT Brubaker's been pitching better, so I can't argue with people who want to bet the under here. But woof, this is a low number. Now I get it. Now this park plays big, right? So 7 could make sense. But wow, is this a low number for a game that involves the Phillies in a warm weather game in Pittsburgh? So that's why I couldn't fire on the under. But I do really like the Phils here behind Nola. Again, I've been a Nola guy all year. I don't understand why this guy gets no love. Now, granted, again, he's had 2 5-earned starts out of his last 3, but again, one against the Cards, one against the Braves. They are not going to see the same type of lineup here. And you could start to worry about a pitcher like him now, right? Because now he's had his worst month of the year, and his worst month of the year is, by the way, an ERA of 4.03. And this has a lot to do with the fact that he eats innings. Needless to say, love the spot here, laying the half run. And I think I don't ever like going this type of juice either. But yeah, I did fire here. This was at DK, Philly minus a half run, first 5 minus a half run, minus 130. And John Cy Burns has been has been really good. If only Woodruff can find success as well. I think that's your big difference. I've said for a while now, I think the Brewers, it goes without saying, it's objective, right? The Brewers are a sneaky team in the playoffs if they get there. They have the two big arms, obviously Burns and Woodruff, and their lineup is not as bad as it seems like people think. Like you look at this lineup every day, especially if they face a lefty, like this lineup smashes and has some big names in it too, especially towards the bottom of the lineup. And let's not forget the back-to-back best bullpen arms in baseball. And you mentioned Freddie Peralta, who I'd be interested to see how he would do in the playoffs. I don't think he has that experience yet. I could be wrong. But now you're talking a really good 1-2-3 punch. This team has got to get a little healthier. It needs Woodruff to be Woodruff. Because to me, that is a scary upside team in the playoffs. Now, granted, they're going to have to face teams like the Mets and the Dodgers, the Dodgers. But when you talk about what wins in the playoffs, obviously it's pitching, right? And if they can get Peralta back to what he's capable of, and Woodruff even close to back to what he's capable of, you then double up the best pen in baseball. It's that's a scary team if they can just get healthy and right the ship in certain regards. To me, a team like that just has to sneak in. Like they don't have to get the best matchups when they get there. They just have to sneak in because they definitely have upside. But with that said, they're just as volatile the other way. All right, so that's where I fired. Next game up, Nationals Cards. So it was nice to get this game over yesterday. It started slow, but then finally, you got some balls out of the yard. And I'll tell you this, Espino, I didn't like the fact that was the flip. Now I bet most of my games on DraftKings, or at least half my games on DraftKings, and those I bet with action. So, you're kind of stuck when a guy like Fetty's not pitching, but Espino gave up a few long balls, which helped. And Dakota Hudson did what he normally does on the road, right? He piles up high pitch counts and he gave up a lot of hard contact, and he was able to give up a few runs. And then it was nice. The Nats ended up getting, having a few leave the yard. I know, Josh Bell, I'm surprised he hasn't been dealt yet. I don't know what the Nationals are waiting for in that regard, but I'm sure he's going to go somewhere. I don't love anything in this spot. I did lean the Nats, but the line moved a little bit. I'm not a big Palante guy. Even though you look at his advanced stuff, and he's been pretty good. Maybe some slight value on the under here. I know I often talk about, how this park, the humidity and such, but these are two decent arms. And I say this about Josiah Gray all the time. Like he's got upside. You watch him pitch. He's got good case stuff. It's just like sometimes he walks too many guys and his location's not there. But, when he's on, he looks like a decent pitcher, like a really decent pitcher. Palante's data is not big enough for me to really go one way or the other, but the advanced stuff that we see today is actually decent. Needless to say, it becomes a stay away spot for me. I don't think the Cardinals the Cardinals lineup just came out now or recently, so it's actually not bad. It's nice to see Paul DeJong. Like he homered yesterday. I think if the Cardinals are going to make any type of run in the playoffs, and by the way, this would be a team that I don't have much faith in for the playoffs, really because of their starting pitching. I don't love their starting pitching. Obviously, Waino and Mikolas, and it's just hard. Their bullpen's not great. Like this is not a typical team on paper that would do well in the playoffs. Again, they might squeeze a bunch of wins in the regular season, but they'll play a team with good pitching. And again, this team is so righty heavy. If there's one team that needs a guy like Juan Soto, I know that they're in the running for him. The Cardinals would make the most sense because you could just slot. You could start. I mean, you have a lot of options with the lineup at that point. Like you lead off with Carlson, and then maybe you back Goldie 2, and then you put Soto 3, Arenado 4. I mean, that's a pretty juicy lineup. It's a pretty juicy 1 through 4, to be honest. And again, you split your Goldie Arenado. Like right now, obviously, teams that pitch a brutal righty, obviously that's tough because they're always batting back to back. But Soto in between would be nice for this team. They're gonna have to give up a lot to get him, though. All right, but I do think that's their only shot to me to make a run, because at that point now you become absolutely lethal with your lineup versus really good with your lineup. So, and they don't have the pitching. That's why they need Juan Soto if they're going to make any type of run. Cards run line easy money. You might be right, we the people, but I do respect Gray. And the Nationals, it was nice to see them having a few balls leave the yard yesterday as well. What was I going to say? All right, so next up, Reds, Orioles. So Nick Lodolo, guy with some decent K upside, to say the least. Here's my problem with him. He gives up a lot of hard contact, decent amount of walks, just giving up a lot of what I'll call free passes or what will be free passes. Austin Voth has been a little bit of the opposite. He's been, dare I say, respectable. This Orioles team. So this is a spot where the Reds have seen steam. And I really liked the Orioles in this spot. I say liked. So I waited for this team to hit this because I'll be honest. Again, this is all numbers, right? I wouldn't have bet the Orioles as a pick 'em here at -110 because I do believe the Orioles should have been a small favorite here, like -115, but -110, that's not enough. But now, +106, I will take that movement on any given day, especially with the lineups the way they look. So thank you very much for that. And that was what I fired on as well. Now, Lodolo, it comes in somewhat highly touted. But man, like he's had his issues. Now, granted, again, he's got himself out of jams as well. You know what he kind of reminds me of because he's a lefty as well? Mackenzie Gore from the Padres. Now, obviously, Gore's better. At least Gore's looked better. But this dude just gets absolutely mauled by right-handed bats. And I know the sample size isn't that large, but we know what the Orioles do have, and that is right-handed bats. And you look at the lineup today. Now, granted, they sat Cedric Mullins, but to me, that's not a big deal because against Lodolo, you want right-handed bats. So, like, he's going to see a lot of them. Now, the only problem I have with this, and this might be a hot take, the Orioles did not start even one lefty. And here's my issue with that. I feel when this happens where a left-hander that struggles with right-handed bats or even a right-handed pitcher that struggles with left-handed bats and you just stack a bunch of lefties, when you don't see anybody else from the other side of the plate, you can kind of get yourself into a rhythm, right? Like you can just consistently know your locations and you're not like botching, like you're not worried about throwing different pitches to left-handed batters. You're just kind of consistently focusing on all right-handed batters. And again, you look at this lineup and they literally played 9 right-handed bats today because you got a few switch hitters in there. I always worry a little bit about a pitcher getting into a rhythm versus the same-sided batters for multiple innings. But it's hard to look past his numbers against right-handed bats. And I could have bet first 5, but think about the bullpen discrepancy here. The Orioles actually have one of the better pens in baseball. So for me, I feel like at a dog money price, now I'm getting the better starter, the better lineup, the better bullpen, all at dog money. Now, look, the Reds might be able to do what they did yesterday, which was really smack the seams off the ball. And Austin Voth can be vulnerable at times, but I mean, to me, I get all 3 check boxes in my favor at a dog money price. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that in every scenario. So yeah, that was where I fired. Orioles +106. That was at FanDuel. Brewers and Yanks discussing Gallo. I'll be honest, John. I see, like, I know I troll him or I've trolled him a bit at times, but I really feel bad for the guy, as in Joey Gallo. And I think he just needs to change the scenery. Like, I don't understand why the Yankees just didn't send him down to the minors to build his confidence. Confidence is such a big thing in Major League Sports, not only just baseball, but everything in general. You know, basketball, football, confidence. Like when you don't have it, man, it's hard to mentally compute yourself or mentally calibrate yourself on a day-to-day basis. Joey Gallo just looks lost. To me, a different change of scenery, where he has less pressure on him, it would do him a bunch of favors. I felt for sure if they just brought him to Double-A or even Single-A just to get himself some confidence reps back, man, like you'd kind of see him hitting 3rd or 4th in the order for a Single-A club. He'd probably jack a few out. Then he'd move back up to Double-A, and you could just kind of rotate his confidence that way. And then by the time he's hitting well in Triple-A, you bring him back up. You're near the postseason, and now you have a whole different Joey Gallo. To me, the guy's 2 years removed from an OPS of sub-1. The guy hit 25 homers in 90 games the year before. You don't just lose that. Like what you do lose is the mental aspect. Again, I'm not a psychiatrist, but to me, his issues are 100% mental, and those are fixable. Those are certainly fixable with just helping him build his confidence. So that's just my take. What's up, Leroy? Did I miss anybody else? Oh, what's up, Trav? River Rat. All right, so next game up. Rays Guardians. So Shane McClanahan. Did it Brian Shaw? It was a glorified bullpen day. Bullpen day. Shaw's a bullpen guy, isn't he? Yeah, so I'll be honest. I didn't look at this game much. It's going to be a bullpen day for Cleveland. I didn't really look at this game much because McClanahan games, like you're either betting them under or you're betting the Rays if the price makes sense. McClanahan is so good. I mean, man, I had my issues with him last year, as I mentioned, but man, this dude has turned into quite a stud. But yeah, stay away spot for me overall. I think the line's about right at 250. The line's about right at 6.5. I bet one under this year where first 5 was 3. But no, that's not fun either. Every time a base runner gets on, you feel like you're going to lose the bet. So, no, I don't like this spot at all. in any regard. All right, so Marlins, Mets, Pablo Lopez, Taijuan Walker. Now, I'll be honest. I debated. I wanted to bet Pablo Lopez grabbing the half-run first five, but this line moved a bit, and I didn't have a first five last night for this. But I would have fired there, and this line's not going to move much. So here's the thing. I know we backed Taijuan Walker against Jordan Montgomery. I know the Mets are winning a bunch of games in a row. But this is still Pablo Lopez, and this is still at home. This dude is usually a much better arm in this ballpark. And granted, he's regressed a bit from his historically good start to the year. Him and Sandy have been tremendous this year. But the Marlins aren't really hitting, which makes this tough to want to bet anything in it. And look, this could be a spot where, and it's hard to even like the over, right? Because I think Taijuan Walker probably gets hit up a bit this start. I'm not say hit up. He's not going to get, I don't think he's going to get like shelled. But, the Marlins didn't do much yesterday. And Taijuan Walker has been a little bit worse on the road. And, he did give up a few long balls early in that Yankee game. He settled in a bit, but he also got himself out of jams. It felt like he had a first and third, less than 2 outs, back-to-back innings, I think. So, it wasn't like he pitched pristine. Now he gets a more watered-down lineup here, and it's a bunch of righties. But, I would have fired here, but the line moved too much for me to like it. So I stayed away. But needless to say, I would have bet Marlins first five grabbing the half run. It's just the VIG's too much now for there to be any value. All right, so White Sox Athletics. Dylan Cease, who's had a great year. It was nice to see him. I think he made the All-Star game, right? I think. And Adam Oller, this guy's not as bad as his ERA says. And granted, they're trying to make him more of a glorified bullpen guy instead of just a bullpen guy. Pitched a bunch of 1-inning games this year, 1 or 2-inning games this year. And recently, since he's been having to pitch more innings, he hasn't been as good. But let's be honest. Houston, Yankees, Seattle, Boston, his last 6 starts. Let's give him a bit of a break, right? And now he faces the White Sox, which White Sox have underperformed all season long. And you look at the lineup today, it's okay, okay. A bunch of right-handed bats, which is probably good for Oller. But, he's been tough to watch. And granted, he's faced much better teams this year, or especially recently. But, overall, this spot slightly in favor of the under. I don't love it in any sense. But I do think the number's a little high. But needless to say, it's a tough spot to love anything about it. I do think Oller throws better in this start than he's been. He's going to get a bit of a worse lineup here. And again, he's not nearly as bad as his ERA says he is. The sample size isn't really big at all either. Odorizzi and Kirby, Astros, Mariners. Houston's down to 135. I think they were a little higher before. I can't express this enough. I am absolutely not an Odorizzi guy. This guy gives up a tremendous amount of hard contact. This come the playoffs, I'd be shocked if this guy's in the rotation instead of being a bullpen guy. With that said, Seattle, did they lose yesterday? I know they blew the lead after leading 3-0. All they did, they came back and won, which is nice. J-Rod took one off the hand though yesterday, which is a little scary for us M's fans. But X-rays came back negative, so hopefully he's not out long. He might be out today. I don't think we have a lineup yet. We do not have a lineup yet. So he might be out today, but needless to say, I don't love anything. I think that you'll barely ever see me back Odorizzi. Now, I think I backed Odorizzi. It might have been earlier this year. Actually, I don't even against Kikuchi. Actually, that might have. I don't remember, but I know he was a pick him against Kikuchi, which to me was a spot where I fired on Odorizzi. But laying at 135 in this spot's kind of crazy to me. But again, J-Rod being out would hurt this lineup a little bit. It'd be 5 to 10 cents. But it's hard for me to love anything here, all things considered. But again, I would lean the Mariners in this spot, especially if J-Rod's back. Rockies, Dodgers, Herman Marquez, Tony Gonsolin. Absolutely loved this spot. I bet this over at 11, minus 120 DK. So hold on. So Dodgers, Rockies versus Dodgers, 11, minus 120 DK. Now this game's been steamed a bit down, and it's kind of what's opened it up for me. Now I know yesterday the game didn't go over after a huge start to the game. And actually, I don't even know if a single game in the series has gone over. No, both games have not gone over. Here's my thing. This is why it's such a principal bet for me. So yesterday, you get Kyle Freeland and Clayton Kershaw, right? And what's the total? 11.5, right? Or 11. Yeah, it was 11.5 at plus money, but either way. And now they turn around, and the weather's just as warm, by the way, in Coors. German Marquez and Tony Gonsolin. Now, Marquez at times has seemed to find himself a bit, but he has been brutally bad in this park this year. Tony Gonsolin, dare I say, regression is starting to occur for this poor guy. You look at this Dodgers staff. I don't know if it's in the water over there in LA. Well, it can't be because the Angels suck. But like Tyler Anderson, Tony Gonsolin, the fact that these guys have been pitching well, it's like so crazy to me. But anyway, so the only issue here was I'm really surprised when I saw Crom was out. I don't know if he's hurt or whatnot, but obviously that leaves a little bit of a gap in this lineup. But the Rockies lineup is still good, and this is the best home scoring team in baseball, which doesn't surprise, right? So they play at Coors. They've been hitting in this series. And then you look at the Dodgers lineup, pretty good today. You know, you always worry about a Sunday and people sitting bats. You got, I know Max Muncy's kind of been bad, but yeah, Belly batting eighth. I mean, Jake Lamb, who's obviously always got a home run pop against right-handed bats. So for me, these games have started out pretty fast with a lot of runs scored, and the bullpens have seen some work. I know Rockies good pen arms saw work yesterday. Some Dodgers pens arms saw arms yesterday and the day before. Two guys that don't always eat innings per se. To me, again, I know the series hasn't played big with runs being scored. But again, just out of principle, I get two, for me, worse pitchers than yesterday. The line is the exact same. So yeah, out of principle, it's got to be an over bet here. Because I even said yesterday, I kind of liked the over yesterday, but I felt like it was probably right at the cusp of where value was going to start. So I didn't fire here. This is a really good spot for an over at this number, primarily because to me, this number should be 12. The fact that it's 11 and a half plus money. So that's where I fired 11 minus 120 DK. And I guess we can move on. Angels, Rangers, Dane Dunning, Reed Detmers. As you folks know, I don't really bet Angels games anymore. I guess you can bet totals in Angels games, right? But as far as spread bets go, this team is so difficult to watch. Now, Reed Detmers has actually been pretty good this year. And Dane Dunning is typically very good versus right-handed bats, and that's what mostly the Angels have. It does scare me a bit because where Texas can do its damage is against left-handers. But credit to Detmers. He hasn't been terrible versus righties. But yeah, tough spot overall. I can't lay 120 with the Angels in this state at all. It's crazy to think, right? It was 35 games ago, this team was leading, like in running for leading the AL West, I think. And now they're just absolutely drawing dead. And even talks of Ohtani getting traded are becoming a thing. Just absolutely crazy. Needless to say, easy pass for me. Padres, Twins. I didn't look yesterday, but if the game went under yesterday, that's pretty tilting. It did not, which makes me feel good. So Sean Manaea. Now I'll tell you this. Now this 8.5, right? This is a monster total for this park. Now I know that this series has played heavy with run scoring, which it makes it not exactly appetizing in any sense to want to fire with anything. But you get a very susceptible lefty in Manaea, who's been good, but again, he's susceptible against good right-handed bats. The Twins definitely have good right-handed bats, and this lineup looks a little watered down because they platooned a bunch of righties at the bottom. But this is still a team that has a lot of pop versus lefties. Dylan Bundy's been terrible this year. But again, you're in a very forgiving park. And the two prior starts to this, the total was 7.5. So now you get 8.5. I just can't express this enough. You're not going to see 8.5 at this park very often. And you very well don't see 9 at this park often at all. So again, we're talking ceiling number for park dimensions here, which automatically I can't bet this over. But man, this will be a tough under to love if you fire on it. Because again, you're not. There's going to be foot traffic in this game. I mean, there's just no doubt. There's going to be walks given up. There's going to be hard hits. And the ball has been somewhat carrying out of this park. This is also the warmest game of the series. If you're into that, it's usually not this warm either out here. So yeah, it becomes an easy pass for me on both ways. It wouldn't surprise you no matter how this game results. Sunday Night Baseball, Giants, Cubbies, Carlos Rodon. I don't know how this guy is not traded yet. Adrian Sampson, who's been decent, right? Another guy that I thought would be a decent guy to be traded for the deadline. Rodon still could go somewhere. I think the Yankees have really two options, right? It's my boy Frankie Montes or Carlos Rodon. To me, because the Yankees have so many good right-handed studs starting pitching, I actually know that. I mean, they have Cortez. I'm not a Montgomery guy, so I don't even include him in the conversation. Yeah, I guess both would be decent for them, whether it's Montez or Rodon. I've always been a fan of Montez. I just feel like he gets lost in translation out there in Oakland. Still throws hard, still is very competitive. I think he'd be great for New York. Rodon, I guess we'd have to see what happens. Again, that would give them two good lefties and two good righties for the postseason, right? Because as you get to the postseason, who's going to be their arms, right? It's going to be Garrett Cole. It's going to be, Severino if he can get himself back to form. And it'll be, Rodon and I guess Nestor Cortez, right? Because you're not really going to. I mean, you could run a 5-man rotation in the playoffs, but that's a little silly. Because then you can then the Yankees have options, right? You could slide Tyon to the bullpen. You could slide Montgomery to the bullpen. But again, that trade actually has to happen, and maybe if they did that trade, maybe one of those arms would actually go. But who knows? I guess it's all subjective and all hypotheticals. But Rodon here in this start could potentially be his last start as a Giant. Gets the Cubs here, who've actually been decent with their sticks recently. Yesterday, I know I said I thought there might have been some value, very slight on the Cubbies. I didn't fire. And I actually have no idea how that game resulted. I'm looking here now. Yeah, so they lost 5-4. This spot's tough to love. I think Rodon deserves the price at 190, but I'm not going to fire. As for the total, you're talking a relatively brisk night in New York, 60 degrees. Again, it's not cold, but it's not warm. So in a park that the ball doesn't travel well in either, and you're not getting warm weather behind it. Tough to 11 again. Samson's been okay. To me, 7.5 is total what it should be. Line should be about 190. Easy stay away spot for me overall. But I wish you guys the best of luck if you fire. Needless to say, that wraps up the show, right, folks? So best bets. I fired Dodgers, Rockies over 11 minus 120. I fired Phillies first 5 minus a half run minus 130. And I fired on the O's money line plus 106 after the steam hit it with the red steam. That rolled in. So that wraps it up, folks. Obviously, relatively shorter show than usual, but I hope you found value in some of the content, or maybe you didn't and you can eat my ass. Look, I hope you guys all have an enjoyable week. I'll be on next with on NASCAR talking, it's the road tracks, or the road track, if you will, with Coop and Kegger. Always a good watch. That's on the DFS show on Run Pure Sports. It'll be free, so pop on in, especially if you're dabbling in betting NASCAR, or if you're betting, or if you're playing DFS NASCAR. Chachu, gun on my head, Giants, Cubs. Woof. I mean, I'll be honest. I can't even say gun on my head because to me the line's right as it is. Now it might steam. And I'll tell you what, if it steams in either direction, you would fade the steam, and that'll be my lean. Chachu. Wish you guys all the best of luck today. Gamble responsibly. Stay safe. And as always, run pure. I'll catch you guys in about 10-15 minutes on the NASCAR show. Run Pure Sports. Until then.